Okay. So we've seen how to set up storage, and we've seen how we can copy data to and from an instance. What we haven't discussed is software, because at the moment your instance is just a basic Ubuntu system. Now, this comes down to, once again, in the model we were discussing for the cloud, the research cloud, which is that you are responsible for the system. We provide essentially infrastructure, and then it's your responsibility to maintain and administer that system. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. It means you can essentially do whatever you like, configure it however you wish, but it also means that you have to know how to do that and how to maintain it and not make mistakes, hopefully. So in order to install software, we're going to be using a package manager. We're going to be using APT, which is the Ubuntu package manager. Okay, package managers is just a collection of software tools that automate the process of installing software, keeping it upgraded, configuring it, and also removing programs that you might not want or are out of date, and it does it all in a consistent manner. So the first thing we have to talk about is keeping your instance up to date. So that means installing the latest security patches, applying any bug fixes, and doing upgrades to your applications. So APT, the Ubuntu package manager, will do that for you. We've already discussed in the storage episode that you needed to use sudo. So just I wanted to expound on that a little bit more if you're not familiar with it. If on Windows and Mac systems, basically if you're required to do something that needs elevated permissions, it'll ask you, it'll say, you know, you need to have authorization. Is this okay? Do you give your permission? And you type in your password and you're good to go. On a Linux system, you need to essentially elevate your permission to the root level. And you do that with sudo, which stands for super user do. Of course, we use that for the storage system to do the system commands. And there's just the funny cartoon, which I'm very proud of because it's the first one I've been able to put in. So make me a sandwich, what? Make it yourself, sudo make me a sandwich, and it's okay. So that's the equivalent of having sudo. Of course, if you do have sudo authorization or permission, as we've discussed before, that means you can change things on the system, which can cause errors. You can accidentally delete some important system file and the system won't work. But once again, we're working on cloud. So if you do that, you can simply remove that instance and create a new one. Okay, so it is not the end of the world. Unlike if you've got just one PC at work or a laptop and you remove all the system files from that, then that would be a problem. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and once again, I'll run through this on my instance, and so you can follow along, and then I'll give you some time to do it yourself. So let's clear that away. So the first one we need to do is an apt update. Sudo apt update, which will check with all the latest Ubuntu information and compare it with the local database and say, okay, these things are out of date. You need to, there are more up-to-date information available here. Okay, so it's done it. It's reading the state information. It says 102 packages can be upgraded. So to see those packages, you could run list upgradable. We won't do that for the moment. What we want to do next is sudo apt, and we're going to upgrade, because that will apply the security patches and the bug fixes, and it will upgrade the packages that we already have installed on the system. Okay, let's run through. It says it's going to take this 186 meg. Do we wish to continue? Yes. Okay, we'll see how quickly it can do it. Hopefully it won't be too bad. We're up to 70% already. Now, this was the reason I was checking to see were you using an instance that was brand new or something that you installed or created yesterday, for example, because after the very first time you do an update and an upgrade on your instance, if that image, if that software has been around for 3 months or so, there will be potentially a lot of updates and upgrades. And so the first time you do it, it can take 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, as you can see, this one is taking a while. Okay, the latest versions of Ubuntu tend to do an automatic update after you've created them. I haven't looked to see how often that's done, and because I think that's a new feature. But anyway, we are doing a full update for this, and it looks like it's a reasonably lengthy one, but we're almost done. But basically, you should be, and once this is done, then updates and upgrades from now on will not take long at all. So you should be doing them, if not every time you log in, then at least once a week to keep everything up to date and secure. Okay. Almost there. Any questions while we were just waiting for that to update? And in fact, given the fact that that is taking the time, how about I get you to go ahead and do that? So if everybody could begin the update and upgrade, so I'll shift back to cloud computing. What I'd like you to do is sudo apt update from within your instance, and then sudo apt upgrade. I'll stop sharing. And then if we can get a thumbs up from everybody once they've started that process. Okay, Georgie's good. Georgie, does yours look big? Is it like 187 meg or something? If it is, then it's probably like mine. It's probably going to take 5 to 10 minutes to actually run through, so we can do something where we'll actually log in to the instance in another terminal and start doing some other software work. Okay, mine has finished, so that wasn't too bad. All right, so while that's running, what I will do, I'll share my screen. Mark is done, so that's good. All right, so you can see mine has finished. Okay, but while we wait for people, do I want to confuse it? Yes, I might as well. Okay, so from another local terminal, I'm going to SSH into my instance. Once again, it's 146.118.68.143. 68.143. 68.143. Okay, so I've logged into my instance. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start preparing to install another package manager, which is also an environment manager, and that's called Conda. It's provided by Anaconda. So if you've worked with Python before, you might be familiar with Conda. But we're going to use wget, which is our HTTP protocol downloading, and the URL I'm just going to copy from the training materials. And it's https repo.anaconda.com. We're actually going to install miniconda, which is essentially just the package and environment manager. You can install Anaconda, but that includes a whole bunch of Python packages and libraries and things, and I think it's almost a gig. Miniconda is very small. It's a minimum installation. And this is the shell script that we can run to actually install miniconda. And it's used for Python 3 because it says miniconda 3. All right, so I'm gonna do that, and that's done. Okay. Now we'll just check back in before I go any further. Can everybody, or anybody that hasn't finished their update, can they let me know? I don't want to get too far ahead. Georgie, is yours finished? Tucker, Mark? Either give us a thumbs up or a message in the chat. Okay, Tucker's still going, 7%, that's fine. Georgie's done what's in there. Okay, so we'll keep going with Conda. Okay, so I will run through this, and then we can go back to APT. That's not a problem. All right, so I have downloaded that shell script. In order to run it, I simply type in bash, and then I give the name of the shell script, and that will run the installation script for me. So bash miniconda 3 latest blah blah blah. Okay, now this will run me through the installation process. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to review the license agreement. So you press enter to continue, and then you're supposed to read it, but I don't know anybody that does. So space bar will page down a page at a time. Do you accept the license terms? Yes. Okay, location is fine. It's going to stick it in home Ubuntu miniconda 3. That's fine for the moment. And now we will proceed to install Conda. Okay. Yes, we want to run Conda init to initialize it. And it's done. Okay. Now, it has installed Conda for us, but at the moment it hasn't updated our path. So the Ubuntu system doesn't know essentially where Conda is. If I was to try and type in Conda, it would say command not found. So there's a couple of ways to deal with that to get it in the path. One is I could log out and then log back in. And when I log back in, it would add Conda to the path. But the other way I can do it is to just run my bash rc. file. Except it's not going to do, of course, I have to source it. Source.bash rc, and then that will run through and add it to my path. And I can already see that that's working, because you'll notice before Ubuntu/Windows, it now says base, and that's actually the base environment for Conda. Okay. So if I go Conda -v to get the version, it says Conda 4.8.3. Okay. Another simple command, I can do Conda list, and it'll list the packages. So you can see pip, Python version 3.8.3. Okay. All right, so I can now use Conda to install a package. So let's say that I want to install the Python data analysis package called pandas. Okay, it's as simple as saying Conda install pandas. It'll say collecting package data. Do you wish to proceed? Yes, it's telling you what gets updated and etc. etc. So the following packages will be downloaded. It's 155 meg, and new packages will be installed of those. So I'll hit enter for yes, and it goes ahead and it's done. Okay. Now if I do Conda list pandas, says I've got pandas installed and it's version 1.1. Okay. So I will stop sharing that. Give everybody a chance to do that. I'd like you to follow the prescriptions. So if you can use wget and this URL to grab the shell script, and then follow the instructions, and then install pandas. And obviously, you can install any Python package, and you can use other languages other than Python from Conda as well.
And just to be clear, you're using that as an example, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And it was a package that a lot of people do use, but it wasn't too big. Obviously, if I did something like, I don't know, NumPy or something, which is quite large, that wouldn't be a good idea in the middle of a workshop. So this was just purely as an example of something that you might have heard of and that we could quickly copy down during the workshop. Okay, so once you've gone through and used Conda to install pandas, you should also, hopefully everything should have finished on your APT update. And we can do an example of how to install software using APT as well. So once you've installed Conda and then installed pandas using Conda, and your updates using APT are finished, if you can give us a thumbs up or a message in the chat. So the last thing I wanted to do was quickly show how to install using APT. Okay. Let's quickly go back here. Now, I just did an upgrade, an update and an upgrade, but I'm going to show you a shortcut way to do it and to check that everything is up to date before I want to install something. So I can combine my two commands using the $, and I can use the -y flag to say yes automatically to upgrade. So I can run that now, and I've just done it. So there shouldn't be anything that I need to do to update. Done. Okay, so now I can go ahead and install a package. So let's say sudo apt install, and just as an example, there is a command line calendar program called calcurse, which is really small. Done. Okay, I can, once again, I source my bash rc file, and I can now do which calcurse to see whether that command is actually there. Yes, and then I can run calendar curse, and there we go. So you actually have a calendar from your command line. I'm not sure how useful it would be, but as an example, that's fine. Okay. And that, conscious of the time, is really all I wanted to show you. There was an activity, an extra activity that I've got just using pandas to examine the data and the challenge. So if you wanted to have a go at that, that would be fine.
And while you're looking there, just to repeat, the question for the recording is trying to set up access to an existing instance managed by a supervisor, and have been asked to provide my public SSH key.
Yeah, so you can just Google how to create a public key, but basically you can create a key from your Linux or Ubuntu or even Windows system, and it will generate a key and a lock, and then you can provide that to your supervisor. It depends. So for example, I use an SSH public key for GitHub, and there are ways, kind of agents that allow you to submit your public key. But it is all well documented.
Yep. I've added that link. I think that covers in terms of giving access, SSH access to your instance, or
basically you can generate it, or if you wanted to, I mean, if you just trying to think the easiest way to do it, but yeah. First thing would be to check the documentation, have a go, and then if you have any problems, let us know and we can help you with it.
Any other questions? All right. Otherwise, the instances will be available for another couple of days, so you can have a go, have a practice, and just reach out if you have questions. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Lachlan. Will Pawsey provide support for Docker containers?
Depends on what you think about support. I mean, we do provide workshops on using containers in researchers' workflows, and you can certainly install Docker and run containers on your Nimbus instance. We don't support containers per se, in that we don't administer it, but once again, that's the same for, that's the nature of the research cloud. But certainly if you've got questions about containers, you can certainly ask.
And there is, if you go out to our Pawsey YouTube channel, there have been a number of container workshops that have been conducted over the last 2 or 3 months. And so feel free to have a look at those. And if you have questions as well, you can let us know.
Well, all of the volume storage is essentially persistent storage. What kind of software did you want to store.
Okay, and again, that is there any persistent storage backed up on Pawsey where we can store software?
So I guess you could store that with your data.
Source code you write should be in your data volume, yes.
Not on your root volume. So yeah.
No. But I once again, that's
You want
go to best practices. If you've got code that you're writing, you should be backing it up to multiple sources. I'd be using, GitHub version controls types of stuff, and making sure you regularly back it up to your local machine or institution, as well as keeping it on Nimbus.
Good questions. Any other questions? Good. Glad to hear that you thought it was useful. Again, if you can complete the survey, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Lachlan. Thank you, Luke, for your expertise. And thank you all for attending the training as well.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks for coming.